Hey, welcome back to the only podcast that loves your emails more than you love sending them. I'm here, Travis, as always, and I figured I'd bring in some heavy hitters here, so I brought in Dan from the main channel. What's going on, Dan?
I'm here. I'm happy to be here, and I feel the pressure now that you called me a heavy hitter.
I mean, I'm supposed to pump you up somewhat, right? Otherwise, what am I doing?
No, it kind of does the opposite. It kind of makes me get in my own head. I was feeling good, and now I'm scared.
As you should be. Anyway, welcome back to the podcast, everyone. It's been a great time. I know you guys just saw the episode or listened to the episode with Noah Grossman, but because of that episode, we fell way behind on emails. This episode and the next episode will be dedicated to trying to catch up as much as we can on a lot of your questions. If you don't hear your question answered here, it may get answered next week, but we're kind of getting to the point where we're getting so many questions and we're trying to fit in interviews and stuff. So we're going to try to get to all of them. I apologize in advance, but we're going to get to some of the older ones here today. And y'all have shown us a lot of love. I would love to do a little chit with the chat, but we got too many questions. So let's get into the first. This came from an audio podcast listener. Again, if you're listening to audio podcasts, there's a link there to send us a text message. Hello, my name is Dan. Wait a minute. What's happening?
You better get this question correct, by the way, because I've been counting on this for a while. I've been wondering why it hasn't been answered yet, and I've been hoping to get some clarity.
Wait, did you move to Toronto? Because that's where this one came from.
Oh, a different Dan then, sorry.
Okay. Hello, my name is Dan, and I run a music reaction channel. I have 13,000 subscribers and over 2 million views. I love listening to music and dissecting it as well as commentating on it and hearing input from people all around the world. I guess my question is monetization, as music can be hard to monetize if everything is copyright. I started a Patreon page and tried to funnel people over there for an unedited version of my reactions. But I was wondering what other monetization methods you would suggest. Also looking into starting a music podcast room. So here's an interesting thing. We also did an episode, perhaps when this email came in, with Justin Moore, who crushed it. He explained so many different ways of how to monetize your YouTube channels. I would recommend, I'd love to hear what you have to say, Dan. My answer is going to be go listen to that podcast because he came up with some really phenomenal ways to monetize things. But a music reaction channel would be kind of difficult.
There's going to be pretty much no chance you don't get copyright issues with a video where you're reacting to a song, right? If the music has to play in the video, I don't see how you get around that. But I do wonder if one option for them, on top of the Patreon and the tips, if they listen to the Justin Moore episode, on top of those things, one option could be to deviate from the reaction content once in a while with videos that are music adjacent, music related still, but not the same thing. And one example that probably wouldn't fit this creator's vibe, but one example I recently saw was there's a creator who does a lot, like, oh man, I need to find the name. I feel like it was John here at vidIQ that shared this with me, but there's a creator that makes all kinds of like wacky inventions, but they are typically like related to musical instruments. So I think their latest video was like piano gun, and it's literally a keyboard. The thumbnail just kind of tells it all. There's literally a keyboard with guns attached to each key.
Oh yeah, it was John. Yeah.
So if you look up piano gun, you'll find the creator I'm talking about. And I know that I'm not telling you to go do that or anything, but it is kind of interesting to see that music is the underlying topic on the channel, but it is way more than a music channel. So I kind of wonder if there's other topics you can discuss. I've watched videos from commentary channels like Gabby Bell, for example, great example. She is a commentary channel. She'll talk about Gordon Ramsay and stuff on her channel. So not really a channel that covers music. However, she is a musician herself, and she uses her music in her commentary videos. She sometimes covers music from a commentary perspective, talking about how a certain genre has changed or things like that. That just becomes one of the videos she does. So she'll talk about TV shows. She'll talk about just different life experiences. And then one of the recent videos was, I think, about the evolution of like punk, or something like that. So those are just different things that pop to mind. And I try and take note of those mentally when I see them, because we have a lot of music channels that watch our content because music's a really tough niche. And I feel like if you change your perspective about what a music channel is, there's probably a lot of avenues you can go down. It just doesn't necessarily mean you're always reacting to popular music or covering songs.
Yeah, it's a good point. It is a very difficult niche to financially benefit from, if for no other reason that you're using copyrighted music. So even though it might be fair use, that doesn't mean you have the ability to monetize it. But again, between what Dan just said and maybe some of the ideas in the Justin podcast, maybe you have some ideas. All right, this next one says, "Did I kill my video? Hi, hosts of Tube Talk, the Boost, or whatever is reading, whoever's reading this message." So
Fair.
recently, I uploaded a Minecraft video and put 2,500 characters of keywords and key search terms in the description.
Oh no.
I mean, okay. And did I say characters or words? Because you said characters.
Either way, one is too many, but
yeah,
we'll get into it.
It's a lot, and it got the same amount of views my videos normally get in the first 24 hours, but the CTR was 50% lower than what I normally get. I went in deeper to look at the source of the views and found the algorithm was showing my video almost exclusively to search viewers, even though it was an entertainment video meant for my homepage and suggested videos. Since impressions from search don't really have a good CTR, AVD, my metrics were tanking and I panicked to remove 2/3 of my description. Almost immediately, I stopped ranking in search, but I also stopped getting impressions from browse. The video ended up flatlining. Should I just let YouTube push my video to search even though it was meant for search? Hope you have a great day. I think YouTube knows better who your video is for than you do or I do, right? Like it uses so many different signals from viewers to know what satisfaction is, that at that point, when you start getting a lot of impressions, thus views, you don't even need to worry about AVD and CTR. Like, it's irrelevant because YouTube has the ultimate, like, this is a good video metric, which we never get to see, whatever that is. And yeah, removing the text and stuff definitely could make it rank less in searches depending on how long it was there. Typically, it shouldn't affect it too much, but if it was like a newer video and it was using some of the terms you had in there to rank and search, I mean, get the views how you get them. Don't worry about the fact you wanted to browse. If it's going to go to browse, it's going to go to browse. And by the way, videos can shift traffic sources over the course of time. So yeah, I wouldn't have changed anything, especially since you said it was performing pretty well anyway. Maybe you didn't like that it was going to search, but I would ask you, like, why didn't you like the fact that it was going to search? Was it because you didn't like the AVD numbers and the CTR, which again, I would say, who cares? Because if you're getting the views, that's the ultimate metric you need to worry about. And if not, if like there was some other reason, then again, I would go back and think, why did you panic? What was the panic? As you said, the video was performing as normal. That's fine. You just didn't like the traffic, or you didn't think the traffic source was appropriate for the type of content you made. But ultimately, that's not for us to make. Like, we can target a traffic source if it ends up going somewhere else, as long as it's successful. Who cares?
I think that this creator had a specific intent, and the video was set up in such a way that didn't meet their intended audience, which can happen. But I echo everything you said. I believe it was help me out here with the name Tom Bupre.
Todd Bupre, yep.
Todd Bupre, thank you. Sorry, I say that person's name all the time, and anyway, Todd Bupre once told us that. And Todd works at YouTube, once told us that if you want to rank on YouTube in general, search is a good place for new creators to start because you get into people's watch history. And then the next time you upload, maybe that video ranks better in browse. So I think it's a mistake to discount search simply because you're trying to over optimize for CTR and things like that. We're losing the plot a little bit. Like, just make a good video. Like, just make a video that you're proud of. Give it a title that makes sense. You know, if it is a search-driven video, meaning it answers a specific question, then you did a good thing for somebody. You answered somebody's question. Somebody searched for something and your video was delivered to them and people watched it. That's a good thing. You shouldn't be trying to run away from that. But sometimes videos are entertainment-based and they don't have very searchable titles. But the title should make sense to the viewers who get served it in browse. You're not going to get a lot of browse traffic unless you kind of start somewhere. And it sounds like you had an avenue for starting and you kind of turned your back on it a little bit. So that's like my hot take. But we don't know the title of this video. There's a lot we don't know about this creator's, work that they're talking about. So that would have helped to have, so I could like try to identify like why that title was more searchable than they expected. But anyway, hopefully we've been in some help here. I'm sorry if I'm a bit harsh. First they said I keyword stuffed my description, which you're not supposed to do, by the way. And then they said, but it worked. And now I had to reverse course. Like, no, you. So
it worked. There was the answer.
There was so many pitfalls there. I hope your next video does really well, though.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, next up. Hey guys, I've been listening for the last couple of months. I enjoy the podcast a lot. Appreciate the effort to help others with with YouTube. I've been having a hard time with my YouTube channel. I started it myself because it's what I want to do, and slowly enlisted help of my wife to do some editing. I was having a hard time with being consistent and getting all of it done. We both work full time, and since I've tried a little bit of what she would like to do, it's kind of gone downhill with views. How can we both work on the channel and get it to a place where we are seeing growth? Is our problem simply not enough of a niche, or are there multiple compounding problems? I really only been working on YouTube consistently for a year, and before that was just messing around with it. We did get monetized in January. I think the thing is, when you look at something like this, so they said they brought their wife in to help with editing, and it sounds like their wife may have had different interests than maybe what the main channel was. Without knowing the channel, because I don't have a link here to the channel, I'm assuming that the topics are all over the place, which is why they probably asked, like, what is it something to do with the niche? The thing is, just think about, again, it's funny, I literally just talked to a multi-million subscriber channel last week about this, and for as much as small YouTubers are starting creators are like, I don't understand how YouTube works and stuff, you'd be surprised at how the successful ones don't either. So what I'm going to tell you now is literally what I told a multi-million subscriber channel last week. Stop worrying about algorithmic things and worry about the audience. As a person, as a human being watching YouTube, if you went to a channel and it had a video about baking cake and you loved it, and you're like, man, I love baking, I want to get into baking, and then the next video is about Legos or something like that, you're probably not going to subscribe or watch that channel. It's the same thing. It's not like it is an algorithmic thing, but it's not an algorithmic thing. It's the audience that is telling the algorithm by not watching things what they're interested and not interested in. So obsess over that. Look at your channel as a whole. Is it consistent? And if so, okay, fine. Now look at other channels in your niche and see how they're doing it with the successful ones. Are they doing it different? Are they editing different? Are they telling stories different? Are the thumbnail styles different? What makes them different and successful versus what you are doing? And be very critical, and don't, just because you put out doesn't mean it's the best thing ever. I know that maybe you put a lot of time in something, but just because you put a lot of time in something does not mean it's good. And be very critical with yourself, and have your wife look at certain aspects of what you're doing, and maybe she's just editing what you're giving her, but maybe she wishes you would do something different.
I agree with everything you just said, because audience first, that really is the key. Think about it from the perspective of, hey, what did we release last week? It did really well. Like, just as fictional example, what would that audience expect to have happen next on the channel? And if you're bouncing from topic A to topic B, that's going to be confusing, because you're kind of, every single time you do that, you kind of are catering to a totally different audience. And so what we just talked about with the last creator, let's say video A gets into the watch history of a bunch of people of video on topic A, and then video on topic B is now being recommended to the folks who you're in their watch history. They're not clicking. It's just kind of this roller coaster of, like, you have some things that are a success, some that are not. Really consider the audience that you've been building, because YouTube growth happens a lot faster when you adopt that, like, snowball effect of, like, okay, you like that? Well, here's something just like it,
Absolutely. And again, human nature is to repeat things. The reason that we eat delicious foods over and over and over again is because we enjoy it, right? So same thing with watching content. Reason I watch Severance because it's excellent every single episode, and I come back for another one. Okay, last one from the audio podcast. Hello, Jen and Travis and the rest of the vidIQ crew, which is Dan. I start my day with your show. It's like a flat cup of coffee flavored soda with candy corn sweetener. That sounds disgusting.
That sounds
but you're
awful.
Awesome. I'm a professional children's entertainer performing puppet and magic shows all over my home state of Colorado.
That's cool.
I love that. I'm a former magician. I've talked about once or
wow.
twice here. I think, yeah. I am I already said that. Okay. In the last year, I created a YouTube channel to help promote the business. But recently, I've began uploading puppet stories for kids, at least on a weekly basis, to try to YouTube channel independently from the business. These videos have been catching on with hundreds to a little over 1,000 views each, but with continual growth in the last few weeks. I'm going to stop reading here for a second. Fantastic niche.
Whoa. Your
right?
mic did a crunchy thing.
It did a crunchy thing?
Yeah, it did it
All
before too, but I didn't know if it was on my end.
Well, I'll listen back to the thing to see if it did. I'm recording audio separately too. Fantastic niche. Not everyone can do puppet shows. So I feel like that in and of itself differentiates you from someone like for example, if you have a gaming channel, everyone can play the same game.
Yeah.
But not everyone can do puppets. So you've already differentiated yourself, which I love. All right, let me finish reading this. I think it's cool. I would like to put a link in the description of my videos to kids' books that connect to my video that I have affiliate links to, but I'm not sure if that's allowed in YouTube's COPA rules. I tried to research it on YouTube and also with my affiliate program, but I haven't been able to get any straightforward answers. Just want to do the right thing. It would be awesome to be able to have those links to help connect people to buy products to support our channel. I think the thing is, thanks again for your amazing podcast and all the candy talk. Wouldn't be surprised if you get a brand deal with Insulin Company soon.
You just got roasted.
I love it. I love it. This is an undercover candy podcast, as everyone knows. So I don't think it's something to worry about. I don't know what the COPPA rules are on that. Matter of fact, I don't think there are any COPPA rules specifically on affiliate links, because YouTube would definitely would let you know if there was. Because kids generally don't have a credit card to buy anything. So even if they click the link, like, where are they going to go? Because you can't have end screens, right? You can't have comments, but there is a description area. I don't think anyone's worried about that, because only the adult would be able to click and take any action with it anyway. So, because even if a kid clicked on it, they couldn't buy it.
Yeah.
I mean, probably not, unless they obviously sold it, but that's something has nothing to do with you. It's not your fault. So I feel like this is okay. What do you think, Dan? Is anything sticking out to you on this?
I mean, because we're not lawyers and don't work at YouTube, there's all we can say is that sounds fine. I think I've seen people do what you're saying. Yeah. I'm a little focused on something they didn't necessarily ask, but I thought this is where the question was going, and I prepared a whole thing, and then it changed to affiliate links. Maybe this will be helpful to them. But they mentioned that they're doing puppet shows and the videos are taking off, and this is to, in part, promote their business, which is a very local business, right? Like, they're not going to be flying out to Florida to do puppet shows. They're in Colorado. So if people are watching your videos and considering hiring you, it's going to be people who are like local to you. But YouTube can certainly be a vehicle for that, which is great. I would just say that it does sound like you have an opportunity to kind of cover almost two channels, certainly two different audiences. You have the puppets, which are going to automatically appeal to the younger demographic. But as Travis said, that younger demographic doesn't have a credit card. So they're not going to be hiring you. That doesn't promote at least that live like performance side of your business. But if you have books and other things, that's probably okay. But then there's this other opportunity they have to make videos about like day in the life of a magician, right? Behind the scenes videos, things like that. And I can see those being shorts. I can see all kinds of stuff you can do with that. And if you do feel like that is a different audience, but that's interesting to you, you might test two separate channels, one for the more children's content and one for the more the content that will appeal to a wider audience, but people with kids. And they're like, oh my gosh, this person's a magician. They're actually from the area. Like, we could totally hire them. If they are not from your area, then that's okay too, because you, like you said, you kind of have like other things that you're trying to link to. So those viewers have wallets, and that is just something to kind of keep in mind. But it sounds like they have an opportunity to serve two entirely different audiences very successfully, which is kind of cool.
I love it. I love the idea of the niche too. But yeah, again, a kind of a monetization thing. Doing the shows for the adults is where you'd make your money, whereas the kids themselves probably don't have jobs, and if they do, it's probably illegal. All right. Let's take one of the first emails of this episode. I watched your most recent episode about the 7-Eleven guy, and honestly had me feeling pretty bad about my own channel, because I too had a video going crazy, hitting 1 million views just 2 months after uploading it. But since then, I've gotten higher average view counts, but my videos tend to hardly pass 1K views despite having 12K subscribers. It was definitely one of the people who had a viral video, and I was definitely one of the people who had a viral video and panicked. But at least I know I have it in me to make a video go so big. My biggest concern is that I missed my chance, although I'm sure if I keep at it and keep improving my videos, I will see the same success in the long run. I've definitely taken notes from my video that blew up, and it also did well because of the timing I released it. Haven Hand was doing a similar video series that was averaging 500K views, I believe. Still learning a lot, but not giving up. So no question to that, but that's based on the 7-Eleven conversation that I had with, I think, Jen or John. It might have been John on one of the previous episodes. And then, of course, we released a video on the main channel. And yeah, it's like, what happens when your video blows up, which I think is what the name of the video was or something like that. Like, what do you do? Because when it happens in the moment, especially if you don't have a core group of creators around you or a podcast that's awesome like this one, you don't know what to do. Like, oh my God, something blew up. I'm famous now? No. Sorry to tell you. No. A lot of times we see so many channels that have one big video that just blew up and nothing else follows it, because they don't understand what you actually just said earlier, Dan, which is like, what's the next thing that people would want to watch.
Yeah, I guess it's because I don't have the video in front of me. I don't really know what it was, so I can't sit here and say just do that again, because it could have been something that you caught on camera that was really rare and just, you know. But it is the 7-Eleven story is interesting because that individual was able to continue to show what their life was like as a 7-Eleven employee. Like, they could go into work. They had this like infinite, you know, content creating opportunity because they continued to, you know, go to work every day. So there's a lot of repeatability there, and if you don't have that opportunity, it's best to just kind of go, cool that video took off. Anyway, what's next? And just keep reminding yourself that, like, yeah, I can't really double down on that, but it's okay because I hopefully you learned something from it, and you can start to consider other types of videos that are more repeatable so that you can start to have that snowball effect. And hey, listen, if you have a video that got 1 million views in a short amount of time, watch history. Once again, I'll come back to that. People are going to probably watch your next video more than you're used to, you know, before pre-million viewed video. So you probably did increase the baseline views across your channel. And once the dust settles from your analytics having that big spike, you might notice that between that spike on the back half of it and the front half of it, you'll notice on the more recent side, there's more views than you used to get.
Awesome. This next message from Isaac says, "Good day, team. I have a quick question for you. Does engaging on YouTube matter? I always reply to comments on my videos, but does commenting on and watching others' videos in the same niche matter? Thanks for all you do." So this feels like, I remember when I first was starting out on YouTube, I would be in these little groups or reading message boards like, well, if you do this, then it'll help your video. There's always these small weird things that, like, go comment on other people's videos and leave likes and all this other stuff on other people's videos, like it matters in some way. YouTube is about looking at what the viewer wants and showing them more of that. They don't really care that you as a creator went and commented on another channel's videos. And even if, like, I mean, if you showed up a lot in someone else's comment section because you like them, that's cool. And if someone happens to see your name a lot because they always look in the comment section, that's cool. Maybe they will check you out. But I think to hang your hat on that as a growth strategy is a mistake, because it's not. Your expectations should be in line with what it is you're doing. And I just don't feel like that's something that's going to be, again, it's not a growth strategy. It's something cool to do.
Yeah. What does it mean for something to matter? We get that question a lot. Does blank matter? And the answer is usually no, because we kind of assume what you mean by matter, which is like, will doing this automatically push my videos to more people? Most of the time, the answer is no. However, it does matter if you're trying to do something specific, like network with the creators. You just kind of alluded to this, Travis. Like, if you get seen in their comments a lot and you want to network with this creator at some point, maybe collab with them, it helps that you've been a member of their community for a bit. So it can matter. It can certainly matter. If you are in the same niche, like, I get comments from fellow YouTubers on my gaming channels, or on my gaming channel, and like, I'll get comments from my friends now. They're my friends, but at first we weren't, right? It was just kind of social media, kind of commenting on each other's stuff. Now we're friends. And sometimes they'll comment on my videos and I'll comment on theirs. And I'll get replies under their comment with people like, oh my God, you're so-and-so's here too. And that's exciting. That builds community. Like, so yes, that matters because now you're part of the conversation. But it takes time. Like, I wasn't just automatically friends with those other YouTubers. I was commenting on their stuff. And then they started commenting on my stuff. And it grew organically. So yes, it does matter, but not for the reasons I'm afraid this creator's asking.
Yeah, I love that explanation. It does matter, but not for the reasons and that's so true. Because again, it's like, the fact that you asked the question immediately had my spidey sense tingling about why you asked the question. And it sounded to me like you were looking for it to be a growth strategy. So I think Dan gives you a great answer there. Well, why it does matter, but why, if you're using it for a growth strategy, it's not what you're looking for. This next one's interesting because we kind of talked about this before, but this person might have missed it. It's from Logan. It says, "Hello, Travis and Jen. I've been getting comments on my Minecraft 100 hardcore video saying that talking normally and expressively and saying that I sound like a robot and monotone, but I wasn't trying to be when I was reading my script. I've been editing my voice over Premiere Pro. Can I get help doing my voice so I don't get those comments?" So we talked about this a couple episodes ago, but I don't even remember which one it was, so I couldn't even tell you which one. So I'm just going to try and answer it here. First of all, one thing I learned many years ago way back in my day there, Dan. Back in my day. Um, I'll never forget both my YouTube kind of moment where I learned this, and then in real life moment learning this. I remember shooting an intro for a video, and I went back to watch it before I edited it, and I remember thinking, I'm pretty sure I said that a lot more expressively than it came across. It felt like I said it with my whole chest, but when I watched the video, it just seemed like I was asleep. And I was so confused by this. And then a couple months later, I was driving my car and I looked in my rearview mirror to look behind me, but you know how you can sometimes see your own reflection? I thought I was smiling. I looked and I had an RBF. For people who don't know, you can Google it. And I'm like, wait a minute, I swear I'm smiling, but I'm not. If you looked at me, I was not smiling. I'm like,
Yeah.
So your perception of what's going out to people is completely different. I can tell you now that I have figured out the percentage of what you need to do to come across as expressively as you think you are. I even did this with a creator like 2 years ago. I was like, okay, here's what you do. You record this section of the video 3 different ways, and then we're going to figure out which one's best, because he had the same problem. You're going to do it at your normal cadence and everything. You're going to pump it up another 25%. You're going to do another 30%. And then one, you're just going to go so wild that it just doesn't even feel natural. And then we're going to watch all of them again and figure out which one's the best. The best one for him was like the one that was 50% more than what he thought he was getting across. Now, what does that mean? That doesn't mean yelling, but it means really trying to kind of over exaggerate everything to, and I just give it a percentage so it's easier to understand, degree above what you would normally do. And I actually do that now naturally on camera. So when I'm talking stuff, I know what it needs to look like on the other side, and I know how much more I need to push into that to make it come across that way. If you meet me in person, I'm completely different as far as like the way that I express myself. But in order for it to come across my camera, you do have to push it forward a little bit. Now, having said all that, there are lots of very successful YouTubers with monotone voices on YouTube, and I watch one of them. Carl Jobs does a lot of really great videos about video gaming and speedrunning and stuff, and his voice is as monotone and robotic as it comes. But he's got over 1 million subscribers. Hello, you legend! Right? It's crazy.
Yeah,
but his stuff is good. So you can either A, try to improve upon it because you want to, or B, you can ignore the comments that say that. It's probably only a couple of comments to say that. So if it was you, Dan, and what did you have to go through for like this whole process? Because when you came to us, you did have a channel, but this was a bigger channel jump for you. Like you went from whatever to that. So tell us about that.
I mean, it's hard to remember now. I guess by the time I got in with vidIQ, I felt pretty confident on camera. And if I look back at my vidIQ videos from when I started to now, there's been a notable difference, right? So even then I was feeling more confident, and now I feel even more confident, but I still feel like I'm also learning. One of the things I could tell you is what a college instructor told me. I took a voice acting class in college, and one of the things that they said, which will sound silly when I say it, and it feels silly when you're doing it, is to smile while you're talking. I'm not kidding. You should smile while you're talking, because as you do, you naturally change the way you speak. And I'm doing it right now.
Yeah. You're right. Yeah.
It physically changes how you're presenting yourself. Now, if you're not being true to yourself, if you feel like this doesn't sound like me, it doesn't feel comfortable, number one, be true to yourself. But then figure out what 25, 50% more of yourself means on camera. Watch other creators that you resonate with and look at their faces, like notice what they're doing and how they're presenting themselves. And imagine being in the room with them, right? You're seeing them on camera, but imagine sitting next to them while they're doing their thing, and how weird it probably looks for them to be flailing their arms around and moving a lot. And but on camera, you're just in this tiny little box. Like it doesn't translate the same way. So it is practice. That's all it is. You can edit all you want. They mentioned editing, but like it's practice. It really, really is.
I think this is one of the things that you end up having to learn as a YouTube content creator that you never thought you would have to learn. It's not something it comes out of nowhere. Like there's all types of things you learn as a content creator that you never thought you'd have to learn. This is definitely one of them. It's like I remember even just like the first couple times putting a camera on and turning it and looking at this inanimate object and talking to it as if it was a human.
Right.
And that seemed so weird. It is not even close to weird to me anymore. Now, the thing that's fortunate for a lot of people is we went through COVID times where a lot of people were using webcams for everything. So you kind of got used to it. I think now people, especially with FaceTime and stuff, like people should be more or less used to it. But even as used to that as you are, it's still weird. it's still weird.
Yeah.
And until you have that kind of relationship with the camera, whatever you want to call that, it will continue to be weird. But push into that. Really push into it, try to push past it, and see if you can get yourself to a point where it feels natural to add the extra. Like right now, I'm adding a good 30% on top of what I would normally be talking to Dan about. Dan knows. Dan's been to meetings with me. He knows I'm not like this. So I feel like it's really important that this is a skill that I think a lot of people should learn. But it doesn't mean that you need to change if you feel like it's being disingenuous. Because at the end of the day, people can tell if you're not being real.
Yep.
All right, next up. Hi, Jen and Travis. Love the podcast and the dynamic between the two of you. Well, it's Dan, so
Oops.
Sorry about your Dan.
Sorry to ruin the show.
Could you please help? Number one, if a video has, let's say, 100 views, but only 15 unique viewers, what does that mean? Okay, a lot of times what that means is one of two things. Number one, those people watched it multiple times, or they stopped and then came back and finished it, especially if a video is long. That's typically what that means. I don't know if the percentage is usually that far off, but that's typically what it means. And also, number two, sometimes the metrics aren't 100% accurate. I mean, we just know that because once you've been on YouTube for a long time, you just know some of them are not. Okay.
Yeah.
Number two, I normally post on a Sunday, but I found that most of my views normally happen on the following weekend. I posted a video on Friday, and it's been a good performer, 1 out of 10 for a short period. Should I change my posting date based on this, or is there other information I should consider? Always excited for the next episode. My favorite sweets is sour worms. Love from South Africa. Here's the thing about posting on different days. I've seen, so many times, Dan, in this podcast, I don't want to add personal bias to things. I want to give as much factual stuff as possible, but while also adding a little bit of color to it. Generally speaking, and I'm going to right now use what YouTube is going to say, the only time you really need to worry about times and stuff is if it's like a live stream or something that's like newsworthy and you need to it dies like right away. Like that's when it's like, you got to figure out these times and dates. They're going to tell you that any other time, as long as you post it at all, like it's eventually going to find its audience. And by and large, that's pretty true. Have I seen sometimes where posting at different times makes a difference? Yeah, I kind of have. There was the one time, I don't know if I told you, Stan, I accidentally set one of the podcasts to like 2 a.m. I don't know how that happened. That should have tanked the video. It was actually like number 2 of 10. I don't know. I still to this day don't know how that happened, because really by the time everything else would have come out, it probably should have been almost dead, but it was like a 2 of 10.
But think about that for a second. I mean, 2 a.m. Was that 2 a.m. Pacific time? Okay, so that's 5 a.m. Eastern. And a lot of people listen to podcasts on a commute.
Some people do.
So podcast is ready to go for folks starting their commute Eastern time zone. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, these are things that you have to sit there and think, well, maybe, and to your point, yeah, because normally these episodes go out 6 a.m. Pacific, which is 9 a.m. Pacific, 9 a.m. Eastern. And then depending on aggregates, it just depends. But to your point, yeah, I mean, sometimes times can make a difference up front. Now, overall, did that video perform any different than the other ones? No, like it just did up front.
Yeah.
I think it's just important to understand that your long-term views will probably be unaffected about when you released it. Your short-term might, but that's more of a confidence thing. It's not a performance thing.
Yeah.
Performative. I like that word. It's not appropriate for that question, but I like it. Okay. Next one. This is from another Isaac, but they spell the name differently. Hello, Two Talk. I got a couple of questions I'd love to get your take on. Number one, should I reveal my main channel on my second channel?
No.
I'm starting a second channel to help small creators grow, not as a guru, but as a fellow creator documenting my journey, sharing results and lessons learned. My plan is to be transparent and use my main channel as an example so viewers can follow along and hopefully grow with me. All right, but here's the dilemma. I've heard from forums and other YouTubers that revealing your main channel in a space full of struggling creators can sometimes invite jealousy, hate, or even spam reports. Some people can be petty when things aren't working for them, and I've seen warnings that this could be a risk. Am I overthinking this, or is there truth to it? Let's answer that first.
So I want to answer that because I relate to this directly. I talk about my gaming channel or gaming channels because I've experimented with a lot of channels, a lot. And I will always inevitably someone there in the comments like, what are his channels? Mm-hmm. And the reason I don't say the channels is because I did that when I first started on like live streams and stuff. And it's one of the channels I abandoned because it invited people into my space, right? Like people were joining my Discord, people were in my comments, and they were asking for what? YouTube advice. And I appreciate that it can be difficult to like have a question. I really want to get a hold of these guys, but like it was kind of like taking your work home with you. You know, I work remotely, and so it's really the line's already very blurry for me between work and play. I do everything at this desk, whether it's work or play, but I really like having the separation. And listen, there are people in the vidIQ community who found my other channels and they'll pop up in the comments and stuff. I don't care because it means we have a shared interest. They found it organically. So I don't care if that's not the problem. The problem is I don't want to invite a bunch of people from a totally different community over to those channels because I did it once and I regretted it. Now, that is I'll warn you on that front. But then at the same time, there would be some benefits to me sharing more about myself because I have a lot of cool stories I could tell if only I could share those channels. And I just don't tell them because I know people are like, he won't even share the channels, he's probably making it up. Like, okay, fair. Like, I'm not sharing the channels, so that's fair. There's a lot of cool things I could probably do if I was more transparent. And you could use that to your advantage. And you could just accept that for a time, yes, there's going to be a little bit of annoying, like people coming in, bugging you. If you set solid rules and solid guidelines for your community outside of your growth content, then eventually that can sort itself out. Get some good moderators on your team. You know, that can all kind of sort itself out. But if you don't feel like dealing with it, then yes, you just kind of weigh the pros and cons of it. At the end of the day, though, uh, it's really a personal preference. And so I experimented with being more transparent. I didn't like the cons of that, and so I decided to be less transparent. And I've, you know, that's just how I feel about it. That's why I wanted to share. Sorry, now I'm babbling.
Yes, all of that. I think it's. I understand that maybe showing social proof in the videos that you're doing is an important thing to do. I just think you need to consider other aspects. So if you can, if things are growing fine with the secondary channel without having to mention it more specifically, then just do that. If for some reason you feel like, yeah, I mean, it is necessary, people aren't believing, what I'm telling people, then okay. I just think be aware. Their second question says unrelated sponsorships, good or bad. And I think it's interesting because again, we had this podcast. I want to say, I don't know if it had released by the time they had sent this email or not. They should definitely watch it. If you have not watched that episode, please watch it. I just got my first sponsorship offer, which is exciting, but I don't feel like it's something my audience would really care about. I value my viewers and don't want to just take any sponsorship, but at the same time, I see tons of viewers or tons of YouTubers doing unrelated sponsorships all the time, Squarespace, VPN. Personally, I don't mind seeing those since it's part of YouTube. What's your philosophy on unrelated sponsorships, and do you have any insights on how a broader YouTube audience feels about them? Thanks for all the great content. So I do have a lot of thoughts about this because I've dealt with a lot of sponsorships. First of all, as I talked about with Justin, it's the best way to get money outside of AdSense, and it's definitely something you should pursue. Sponsorships in general, right? No matter the size. And again, if you're a small creator and you think, I'm not big enough, go listen to that episode. He literally talks about even if you're a small creator. Unrelated. So if it's unrelated, then I want to know everything about it personally, because I am giving what they're doing. What's happening in a sponsorship situation is you are exchanging access to your viewership in exchange for money. If you don't already use the product, which a lot of times the sponsorships I take are products I already use. Like it's easier for me to do an ad read or something about something that I like and I'm passionate about and that I use than something that I'm not aware of. I've done both though. I've done sponsorship spots for things that I use, some things that I don't necessarily use. However, I'm always familiar with whatever it is I'm sponsored by. I will use the product. I will look on, reviews to make sure there's nothing scammy or sketchy going on about it. And because you don't want to, we see this so many times with so many creators. You don't want to get caught up in a scam, like the honey thing.
Yep.
When the honey thing went down, all the content creators that had been, kind of promoting them were getting slammed by viewers, even though they didn't know at the time that stuff was happening. But what did the viewers say? You should have known. No, they shouldn't have known. There's no way they could have known. Because even if they used the product, which I had used honey, and I still have the extension installed, mainly because I like the price history thing. But I also know that if I want to give credit to a content creator, I just click on their link and I don't use honey after that, right? Like I understand how it works.
Yeah.
But then you kind of get pulled into their BS. So I think if it's something that's unrelated, it's okay, but really understand what it is. Because if it's unrelated, you may not have as much knowledge about it. And that's where they can take advantage of you and have a bunch of shenanigans going on. And then your viewership's going to be like, okay, why are, you're a Minecraft channel. Why am I seeing something about a new sewing machine? Like, what do I care? So if it's going to be unrelated, I number one usually tell the brand, listen, this is kind of unrelated. I don't know that you're going to get a lot of return on investment. If you want me to do this, if you're like really hardcore about this, I will charge them more, because I'm probably not going to be interested. Even if the product is legit, I'm like, yeah, I've looked it up. It looks good. I've used it. It's fine. I'm just not super interested in it. I will charge them more. And then if they want to come with the money, okay, fine. That's fine. I'll take the money. I just think it's important to A, know that it's not a scam. And if it's not aligned, B, make sure that it's worth your time, because sometimes A or B falls apart and you don't even have to worry about it. Usually A or B falls apart and the unrelated ones don't matter.
There's certain sponsors that I feel like could work for any channel. Like I watch like gaming creators that get sponsored by Manscaped all the time, which is like the razors and stuff, shaving and things like that.
Yeah.
I mean, the only thing you would need there is, does your audience grow hair? Like that.
Yeah.
So in that essence, it's related. There's also, I could also argue that no sponsorship is related, because I clicked on a video about RuneScape and now you're showing me an ad for, it could be just a different game. It doesn't matter. Like I'm trying to watch a specific video and now there's an ad. So no ad is related to the experience that people want.
Right.
But I'll put that aside and just say that, yes, you have the right idea that you should really respect your audience. If you've never used the product, and if they've contacted you and you still have no interest in using the product, I'd really be asking myself, like, do I want to do this? Because it's like Travis said, it's so much easier when you have a relationship with the product already and like, oh, this is something I actually use. Or at the very least, if it's something you would use, maybe a new company contacts you and you're like, I've never used your product before, but that sounds really cool. Do you mind if I take like a week to like, can you send it and I take like a week with it to like, if it's like a physical product or if it's a digital product, can you like give me a subscription so I can play with it for a little while? I just want to speak to it more confidently. And listen, if you get the product in your hands and you hate it, you probably have an obligation to not take the sponsorship, but that's up to you. I mean, it's a wild world. If you want to be a full-time YouTuber, though, I think sponsorships are kind of the avenue. But yeah, this is good that you're asking these questions now.
I like that they asked the question and didn't just take the money and run.
Right.
I like it. I think it shows that they really do appreciate and enjoy their viewership. And I think that there's a lot to take from that as if you're a newer content creator and you're hearing this, because you only gain the trust of your viewership once, and it's so easy to lose. It's very hard to get, very easy to lose. So I love that question.
Yep.
Next question, making a channel with your kiddo. Hi, vidI fam. That's a new one. Short time listener, first time emailer. I've been listening now for a few months, and as I research and plan out my channel, Red Shoe Chefs. By the way, Dan, we have a lot of people that before they ever start their YouTube channel, they start listening to this podcast. I think it's interesting. My plan is,
cool.
With the help of my son, he and I will teach others to cook and level up their kitchen game. I'm harnessing over 20 years of professional experience and want to include my son as a way to bond and help others along the way. First of all, I love that. I think that's amazing. My question is around the YouTube Kids checkbox that is asked at the back end of a channel creation. Our content is not aimed specifically at kids, so I believe I have this correct. But with the inclusion of my kiddo, I'm wanting to know your thoughts on the aspect. I haven't heard any questions. I may have missed an episode on how you qualify kids-only content. Also, if you wouldn't mind giving some tips about helping keep trollery to a minimum or how to engage with negativity would be great. I know it comes with the territory. We definitely want to make sure I'm setting my healthy boundaries for my channel. Thanks for all you do. And if we're not talking about gummy nerd clusters, I don't know what we're doing. Okay, Derek, good question. So, and again, it's not really like a law question. It's not like a legal question. It's more of like, okay, what is a policy question? So take this with a grain of salt. Definitely do your own research. But I will say this, that in everything I've ever read and everything I understand about how the kids only aspect works, and I've seen answers on government sites about this. So you're targeting. If you're targeting a family, that's fine. It's not a kids only channel. If you're targeting like 15-year-olds, that's fine too. If you're targeting 8-year-olds because you're doing like the My First Kitchen toy thing and you're cooking that way, that's a kids channel. it sounds like what you're telling me, just that it's basically a cooking channel and your kid happens to be in it, even though you're doing it, but your kid happens to be in it. That, generally speaking, is not a kid's channel. If you decide to play the Tonka trucks in the middle of the video, that might change the Tonka trucks still exist? I don't know.
I have no
Legos?
idea. They're probably not built the same. I'll say that.
Probably not. Legos. You play Legos in the middle of your game or your video. Probably kids channel. But
there's a lot of adult Lego channels. So rude.
That's true too. See, so it gets very gray. It does not sound like your channel is that. But Dan, this last question is really interesting. What about the trollery? Keeping trolls to the minimum and that sort of thing. I mean, what are your thoughts going into that?
Watch your word filters. Just add to them. Word filters should be something you set and you don't forget. You continue to add phrases and emotes and all kinds of stuff in there, because that is going to help kind of automate the process a little bit. That's the best thing I could say. I also would encourage you, since we're talking, I don't know how old your kid is or anything, but even as an adult, like, negative comments can really get to me. So I would just encourage you to, like, be the person as the adult to, like, go through the comments, like, try to keep a bit of a separation there. If you're noticing a lot of trolling, and so it has such a, especially on a child, it's just such a mental, like, strain to have people in your comments who are haters, and I would be trying to, like, filter it for the sake of family, for one, but also for yourself as well. So yeah, automated comment filters for sure. And try to, I don't know, if something is, you feel like it's up to the line, like if you're trying to engage with your community and you're like, that seems like a weird thing to say, just ban them and move on. Because on YouTube, when you ban someone, I feel like, Travis, correct me if I'm wrong, but when you ban someone on YouTube and they try to comment, they don't really necessarily know that their comment isn't being seen. It's just they're just shouting into a blank void, and it's fantastic. So just ban anyone and move. Just trust me on this. Ban and move on in any time that you're building a community.
Yeah, once upon a time I said that the shadow banning doesn't exist on YouTube, but it actually does. You can shadow ban commenters on your thing. It's actually better than blocking, because, like Dan said, they don't actually know, and they have to. It's not that they can't eventually figure it out, but I think it's the best way of doing it. And absolutely have your word lists block, which includes things like your last name, your address, your phone number. If someone tries to dox you, if you put all those things in a block list and someone comes up and figures them out and tries to post them in the comment section, it'll get blocked. So keep all of those things ready for you. Couple more questions and we'll be out. Noah says he's going full time. Hey, Jen and Travis, longtime listener, want to get some advice on my YouTube situation. I had a video go viral about 2 months ago with 700,000 views, getting me monetized and making me over $10,000. 700,000 views with over $10,000 is a lot of money. Like, what CPM is that? That's crazy.
They might have really long videos.
What niche are you in? Sheesh. I've had a few videos since then doing well, and I'm in a situation where I actually can go full time on YouTube. And I want your advice about actually becoming a full time creator. Any tips on videos out on a schedule, building a better system, or just general advice? Yeah, this is a great question. We don't get it a lot because a lot of people are trying to get to that point. First, congratulations.
Yep.
I don't know if you're in America. If you are, you should be setting aside just to be safe 33% of whatever you're making from YouTube and never touching it. Put it in a bank account because you're going to need it for taxes. A lot of people don't think about this. You are not taxed on your income from YouTube. You are responsible for that. And the IRS wants their money every single year. So I feel like this is the most important thing to understand. Set aside the money. So if you get $10,000, you better put $3,000 aside. Now, is that more than what you need to cover? Yes, but you never know, right? Yep. So put more than you need aside. I always put 30% aside just in case. Number two, depending on the type of content you're doing, you might want to set up an LLC. Now, for gaming channels and stuff, probably don't. And even for smaller channels, probably don't. But it's a good thing to do if you can. Protects you from liability. If you're not talking about anything controversial or not really doing anything with like brands or anything, you're probably okay for quite a while. But it's just a good thing to have. Number three, you got to look up things like healthcare services. Because now, if you're going to be on your own, you don't have benefits. You got to pay for your own. If you're young and you're not worried about it, you're YOLOing, maybe you're living at home. Maybe that's okay, but still, like if you have to go to the hospital, I don't know. Like I don't know how old this creator is. So you have to think about all those things. And the probably the biggest thing is, unlike a job that you get a consistent paycheck, YouTube is not consistent at all. Yeah. Like it's not even like, here's the thing I once said, and it's so true. a long time ago, I said this because I'm very smart. I said, imagine going to work, working the same amount of hours that you normally do, and your boss says, you did a great job, but we're going to pay you a little bit. We're going to pay you 30% less this week. But don't worry, next week, you can work the same amount of hours. We're going to pay you like 25% more. And you're like, first of all, that's whack, but okay. I guess I'm going to make it up next week. Okay, you do that. Then you come in January and you work the same amount of hours, and like, we're going to give you 25% of what you normally make, but you got to work the same amount of hours, or in this particular case, even more. We're actually going to make you work more hours and make 25% of the money. Oh, there was this invalid phone number call that you got. The traffic on your way to work was invalid. So we're not going to give you any money for this video at all that you spent all these hours on. That's the biggest thing. You have to be aware that it is consistently inconsistent.
Yep.
What are your tips?
Have at least, at minimum, 3 months of expenses saved up. And that includes everything Travis mentioned: healthcare, taxes, rent, anything. Like, because YouTube, like what Travis is alluding to there, is the ebbs and flows of CPMs throughout the year. You are reliant in one sense. I mean, you'll have probably other avenues too, Patreon or sponsors or whatever, but like, you are partially reliant on the ad services that YouTube provides. And so if companies decide to spend less because there's a recession or something, you are getting to weather that firsthand. Like, there's so many things. So at minimum, I'd have 3 months. I would feel even more comfortable if creators kept about 6 months of savings. And when I say 6 months, I mean, you can cover literally every single one of your bills in that time frame with even money left over, so you can take a mental health break and go see a movie or something. Like, you need, because you are completely independent and you don't get predictable metrics where you can say, okay, like, our company growth is on this nice trajectory now. Look, no, it ebbs and it flows, and you don't know. Maybe you try a new video and like, it doesn't do as well, but that took up the slot of a normal video that really does well. But now, oh crap, like, it's not just about the views anymore. Now it's your AdSense. Now it's your sponsorship opportunities. Now, like, there's so many things like that. So just like, I'll tell you this, like, working with folks that help you get sponsors and stuff, they will tell you that you need to get sponsors recent successes on your channel, and you need a few in a row to show that right now you are consistent. It doesn't help that if you used to get 300,000 views per video, if you're getting 10,000 views per video today. You need recent success. So if you go through a bit of a lull and you're used to getting sponsors, that will dry up until you come back to where you were getting more sponsorships. So all of those things. I don't want to scare anybody, but this should be talked about more. I think going full-time on YouTube is a cool thing, and a lot of people do it, but people don't talk about like those stressors enough, and that's really it. And diversifying as well. Some folks stream on Twitch. That's part of the diversification. Like I said, Patreon, things like that. So I don't know. I don't want to repeat everything Travis said. I don't want to repeat myself too much, but I'm just trying to put a really fine point on, like, you have to really think about this stuff. So if you have a job right now and you are enjoying it enough to not, want to just quit tomorrow, see how long you can stay there while also having YouTube help build the gravy in the background. So that builds your savings. And then once you hit that 3 months or 6 months or whatever comfortable point you hit with your savings, then I would say it's time to go full time. But 1 month where you get $10,000, was it that for a month?
Yeah, something like that.
That's awesome. But that's still, the next month could be less than half that. I've seen that happen. So just be aware that you are not at a benchmark of, I make $10,000 a month. You don't necessarily, but you could. It just you got to be ready for anything.
And the other thing is, like, for me, taxes became super complicated. So a lot of times you're not using the free tax software. You can't even do it yourself because it's so complicated between the things you can write off. Again, this is US only. I don't know anything about overseas. I actually now pay someone to do that, and that's an additional expense. While you can write things off for your business, which is great, it rarely kind of offsets the other costs associated with life as a content creator. Again, not putting down being a full-time, because it can be amazing, it can be freeing, it can be the most amazing thing you ever had. But I think some people jump into it a little too early without really thinking about it. So definitely take your time, and then you can have perhaps the dream job you've always wanted. But of course, the bad thing is you're your own boss, which sounds great, but if you're a terrible boss, that's a bad thing.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to use that for a clip for an upcoming main channel video. That's such a good question. Okay, here we go. Last question. Viral videos are wrecking my channel. Hi, Jen and Travis. Recently, I had a few shorts take off in the million plus range. I've tried to double down on the success of those other shorts with little or no luck on any new short upload. This seems to have messed up my analytics to where now it seems to favor those other shorts and anything new crashes and burns. On the other hand, previous to those viral shorts, that was the norm for the channel. Does at some point does it all balance out? Will YouTube move the goalpost back? I feel as though slow and steady was better than all at once. Oh man, this is one of the best questions because it's the reality and the what happens when you go viral thing. But what we were talking about earlier, like, will it get normal? I think again, when you think about something, you're hoping that there's a cycle or normalcy to the way YouTube works, and that it isn't. It's not. It's like chaos. It is. And if you're not ready for it, yeah, I could understand that would be scary. And like, what am I going to do? Like, what did I just wreck my entire channel? Well, not necessarily, but you'll have to look at, like I've said a million times before, if whenever you make a video, make sure that that video is in line with everything you want to do, and you'd have to make that same type of video over and over again. Now, we don't know because we don't have the exact example from this channel whether or not that viral video is in line with the rest of the channel. But my guess is if it was the same, then a lot of these videos would be doing better. It sounds like it's outside of the niche or just outside of the niche. But even if it isn't, a viral video is meant to stand on its own, and then everything else kind of goes back to a new floor, so to speak. So assuming that you're in niche and everything makes sense, you didn't go outside of your niche or something wild and crazy off to the side, then what you're experiencing isn't abnormal. And shorts just kind of are this thing. If you did go outside your niche and everything is dead compared to it, that actually makes sense because that's how YouTube works. What are your thoughts on this, Dan?
I don't know if this will be helpful because I don't even know if what I did was the right thing to do or not, but I had for a while on my channel started uploading shorts that were just outside of my niche. In fact, they weren't really about my niche at all. I was just using characters from one of the games that was popular on my channel and basically like having, because we had just gotten our hands on these AI image generators and I was playing with them. And that's what the shorts were. So I was taking the characters from the popular game and then playing around with the AI image generator. And those were getting at the time like millions of views. But it brought in a completely different audience. And the way I found out was because my analytics skewed towards numbers I hadn't seen before and demographics I hadn't seen before. And I'm like, this is weird. I don't normally get these types of demographics. What's happening? And it became really clear once I looked at things that your audience watches, that whole section of your analytics. And it turns out it was my YouTube shorts. They were watching other channels that play around with AI, like image generators and things like that. So I didn't think these were necessarily hurting my channel. Like, it made my analytics look bad, which makes you feel like my channel's broken, but it's your analytics just now are taken over by this thing. It doesn't necessarily mean the other videos are doing bad. My long form videos weren't like this, and they had their own audience, and my live streams had their own audience, and that was fine. But I just didn't, from the aspect of building a community, I didn't like the difference. So I took all of them, I unlisted them, and then I moved them to a different channel where they didn't perform anywhere near as well. And I stopped doing them because I just, I got bored of the technology anyway. So long story short, I sympathize. It's hard without seeing the channel to sit here and go, oh, their channel sounds really broken or their channel sounds fine, because I don't know what your analytics look like. But I had something similar and I changed it based on my community, like the community I wanted to build. That was the what I set as my guideline, not necessarily the views being so different video to video.
All right. Well, listen, everyone, we hope you enjoyed this episode. Dan, thank you so much for joining me this week. And Jen will be back next episode to try to go through the rest of these emails and messages that you sent us. We are so incredibly blessed to get these from you. We love the community at large, and lots of cool stuff coming this year. So if you're interested, if you're here on the YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button, of course. Let us know what you think in the comments. And if you're listening on audio podcast, especially if you're on Apple, leave us a good 5-star review. We love those. And we will see y'all in the next one.